Good morning and welcome, or wherever you are in the world. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Akila Mendez Valdez. I am joined today by Michal Waechter of Waechter Consulting Group. Welcome, Michal.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so to start, I have to ask you because a lot of times my name is just weird and I get Mr. Akila in emails sometimes. Do you get Mr. Michal constantly?
All the time. Mr. Waechter, can I speak to Mr. Waechter? Yes, I get called everything in between. Michael, Michal, Michelle, I answer to
Yes.
you all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I always find it interesting. It would be, always, I think, a unique study on society to see how you're addressed when they think you're Mr. Michael, and then if they, think you're Michelle, and if there's a difference there. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
100%. Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, Waechter Consulting Group, you are a total boss in your company, in life. You manage motherhood, you manage, being a wife, all the things. So walk me through what you guys do at Waechter Consulting Group first.
Yeah. So before I do, I just want to re-congratulate you for your recent award of Women Business Owner of the Year. Speaking of
Oh,
being
thank
a boss,
you. Thank you. That's very nice.
very, very cool. So we do business development in the healthcare space. So we work primarily with medical practices and we help develop a growth strategy for them that includes referral outreach, community engagement, educational offerings, social media, website, email campaigns, really all of the above to create a really coordinated branding effort for a practice so that they
Mhm.
can um, get new patients, open additional locations, recruit new physicians, and just overall grow their business.
Yeah. And walk me through, your past life was more in the hospital system, working for huge, corporations, I guess, or private institutions. Walk me through kind of what made you decide to shift away from that.
Yeah, so I have been in healthcare for almost 20 years, which makes me feel very old. But I spent the first 10 of it in hospital leadership, starting in business development and then kind of promoting through different levels of executive leadership with the Baptist health system. And I decided to leave corporate healthcare and start my consulting company. It's actually, the company turns 8 next week. So we've been at it for almost another 10 years.
Wow.
And really, it was part of being able to manage all the things. My husband is also a healthcare administrator. It's a very demanding schedule where hospitals are 24/7. So we worked a lot of hours. And it just happened to coincide my leaving Baptist with around the time that we were starting our family. And I knew that I would need flexibility and autonomy to
Mhm.
be able to do everything I wanted to do and be a mom in the way that I wanted to be a mom. So
Mhm.
it's really been the best thing for our family. I was able to get clients really quickly. And so I was able to get up and running and busy and continue working and fulfilling my passion, but then also being able to be there for my family. So
Yeah, 100%. So, do you find, with your background in hospital systems and now shifting gears, I would say majority, and correct me if I'm wrong, majority of your clients would be more, small to medium-sized practices. What would be kind of that like core market for you guys now?
yeah, I would say more medium to large practices. We have worked with a lot of startup practices in the past, and certainly that's where our heart lies. Um, Oftentimes, they are not in a place to be able to invest in
Mm.
development or marketing yet, and so they're kind of DIYing it until they are. And we
Mhm.
can certainly help with that too, and from a consulting perspective.
Mhm.
But we really, not just physicians, but physical therapy, chiropractic, stretch therapy, any provider who really wants to focus on the clinical side of their practice and not have to worry about the business side as much. Um,
Mhm.
Not have to worry about what's posting on social and what collateral is out in the market.
Right.
Um, we say they don't teach business in medical school, and a lot of physicians just don't want to think about it, and
Yeah.
so we become their fractional marketing team,
Mhm.
support those efforts. So it's just all running in the background and they can focus on their patients.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love too that you guys, when you were, introducing the company concept, you really mentioned business development first. And I think it's so powerful that you kind of prioritize that at the very top. And then it's what marketing pieces can kind of come alongside to support that. But that has to really be helpful, I think, for clients that feel like, okay, if we're going to invest, we got to feel like we're, seeing a return, we're seeing something come back. And that really kind of is where your primary focus is, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, and it's semantics, but I feel like to me there's a difference between business development and marketing. And
Mhm.
I think business development just encompasses the more comprehensive, multi-channel, multi-strategy approach,
Mhm.
where everything is really coordinated and, rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Right.
So we can work with practices, who are already working with a marketing agency, and we work really well with agencies, and it's a great partnership because we help facilitate content and creative and campaigns and strategy, and they're executing on the assets, and so it's a great
Mhm.
partnership.
Mhm.
Um, but it's been helpful to add more marketing to our service offering over the years, just so that it's a one-stop shop. It's a comprehensive offering for the practices, and we can kind of get it all done for them. So
Right.
there's 4 of us on the team now. I have a director of business development, Gabby Angel, a marketing specialist, Alexis Finazzo, and a physician liaison, Amy Beatty. Um,
Mhm.
and the liaison piece is really the unique part as well, because we're the literal boots on the ground in the field, calling on referring practices and creating those referral relationships that physicians and their staff just really would never have time to do.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. Um, Walk me through some of the challenges that you see. I feel like healthcare in general right now is just very tumultuous. There's a lot of uncertainty. Walk me through some of the things that you're seeing, on the ground with your clients, and how you're kind of helping them either, plan or cope or, be a shoulder to cry on if that's what it takes. But just walk me through some of those challenges that you're seeing right now in the industry.
Yeah, I think, providers are facing more and more reduction in reimbursement. They're being asked to see more patients in a shorter amount of time. And so it's really, there's a lot of physicians that are moving away from the commercial insurance space and moving to direct care,
Mhm.
both primary care and specialists, and moving to more of a cash based model because it allows them to have more one-on-one time with their patients, have the practice, the traditional medical practice that we used to see, long ago.
Mhm. Mhm.
So even, getting busy is one thing, but clients who are busy and they have the patient volume, then we're working with them on patient engagement strategies and
Mm.
experience and looking at their payer mix and their case mix. And are they seeing the right mix of patients? Can they, amplify their revenue if they shift to, a different population or a subspecialty?
Mhm.
So it's not enough for a practice to say, oh, we've got plenty of volume, we don't need to do marketing. The marketing doesn't stop, the business development doesn't stop, it just changes. It just looks
Mhm.
different.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're getting new patients in the front door and they're all going out the back door because of experience or follow up or, any of those factors, that's not helpful.
Right.
It costs a lot more to get a new patient than it does to
Yeah.
keep the ones you have.
Yeah.
Um, so we always try to encourage practices to think that way. It's not business development is not something that you invest in and then pull back and then invest and pull back. It's really
Right.
got to be a consistent investment from the beginning. It's
Right.
just the work looks different as you mature.
Yeah. I could totally see that for sure. So here in San Antonio, we're very fortunate to have our medical center. We have, UT Health getting ready to merge with UTSA and create kind of one of the largest university systems in the state. Um, what do you see as far as anything unique about our market or that we're, fortunate to have, and how that kind of impacts daily life here in San Antonio for South Texans?
Yeah, San Antonio is a really unique market because unlike, cities like Houston, we don't have one centralized medical center. We have these medical center concentrations kind of in different areas of the city. So,
Mm.
starting with downtown, the South Texas Medical Center, which is what, we would call the medical center. Stone Oak added another, medical center. Westover Hills is now up and coming as the next, hotspot. So we're much more decentralized than other
Mm.
cities, than other medical markets, which gives physicians a little bit more leverage because they can choose which health system they prefer to partner with and work at, or they can work at multiple.
Mm.
It gives a little bit more power to the consumer because they're able to advocate for their care and decide where they want to go and who they want to seek out. So it gives some good friendly competition between the systems for sure.
Yeah.
But it also allows easier geographical access for patients. They're not having to drive 2 hours for care when there's, a medical hub that's 15 minutes away, 30 minutes away.
Right.
And I think a lot of people underestimate the level of care that's taking place in San Antonio. I think people feel like they have to travel to Houston or, another medical hub for higher level care, but
Mhm.
there's, significant cardiac care and, oncology and, going on here. And so very often patients don't need to travel. They can, find specialists that are really close to home.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, and I think too, it deserves to be mentioned that we have so much of a military presence here with BAMC and bases that bring in their physicians. That at least I know of a handful that have ended up staying here in San Antonio and started businesses and raised their families here. So I feel like the military medical community as well kind of adds this additional subset to our community.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm. So walk me through, when you are thinking about the growth of your company and where you want to take it, are you at a phase where you feel like, okay, let's just take off, let's go for it? Are you, excited about what's happened in your company and you're happy with where it's at? What's kind of the next, 2, 3, 5 years look like for Waechter Consulting Group?
Yeah, no, we're definitely still on a growth trajectory. Adding the digital marketing component gives us a lot more geographic freedom. So
Mm.
we can take on clients anywhere for that piece of it. And we can work with their liaison, or we can, identify a liaison in their market if they want to add the referral strategy. So that gives us a lot more flexibility. And, then for local clients, we're again doing the liaison activity in the field. Um, I've also started recently consulting with a couple of companies out of state to coach them up on their liaison programs and get their liaison programs really functioning at best practice status. And so that's been really fun for me because that's
Mm.
really digging into my experience and my expertise and allowing me to kind of stretch a little bit. So
Mhm.
yeah, we're definitely still growing. We're still taking on new clients, and we'll see what the next 10 years holds.
Yeah. Walk me through, is there a particular client, success story that you feel like, oh, if I could just, replicate that for every client, it would, make your day. Is there any particular, moment that you feel like has been super rewarding or super impactful?
Yeah. So my longest running client, I have been with since only a few months after I started the company. And he was a solo provider in a temporary office space, kind of, working satellite out of a location until he found his forever home. He ended up building permanent office space. Fast forward to today, they're busting at the seams. They're busier than they ever thought they would be. There's 3 physicians at that location now. And so it's just been so rewarding to help him from the very beginning of, really going out and building those referral relationships. And he wasn't known in the community, and it was a totally new market for him, to now where he's the trusted, resource. He's the specialist. And we're trying to figure out where to put patients because, they've grown so much. So
Mhm.
it's just really rewarding. And that's how my brain works is, how to grow something, how to make something better, how to create those relationships. And so it's always, that's the part that, really feeds our passion and keeps us going.
Yeah.
Um, another client came to us and they shared that their volume increased 25% year over year. because of the work that we're doing with referral partners. So,
Mhm.
it's, what do they say? If you work it, it works.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like that's definitely the case for so many different industries with referrals. If you're constantly, out there and working the system in terms of business development, that the results will directly be correlated to the level of input you're putting in. But if people are listening and maybe they're not even in healthcare, maybe they're not even in the medical field, but they do referral marketing and have that component of their business, what would be maybe, one or two tips that you love to kind of start off with if people are wanting to just sort of step their game up in that department a little bit?
I think the best practices that I kind of go back to are it seems really basic, but it's not as common sense as you would think. There really is a finesse to referral marketing, and there's a
Mm,
specific personality and there's a specific style that does really well. And I think when you approach relationships really genuinely as a resource, not trying to sell something, but trying to really help the other person and provide them something of value, I think that goes a long way. I think
mhm,
our world is so transactional these days. Somebody's always trying to sell us something. And so we just kind of are averse to that. And if someone is
mhm,
actually bringing you something of value, I think that's, more important. So
mhm,
I think leading with authenticity, leading with a value proposition statement, really strategically identifying who your targets are, um,
mhm,
and then really cultivating those relationships. It's not just dropping in once and hoping that they send to you, but creating a call cadence. So you're staying top of mind, you're staying visible, you're resolving any problems that might come up. You really have to stay close to your referral partners, in the long term so that they keep referring to you.
mhm. Yeah. And it almost sounds kind of to your point that if you are, if you're with a doctor who only spends 30 seconds with you and just moves on and can't, be bothered, you don't feel great about returning to that doctor. If you have a referral partner who's constantly just, dropping their business card and walking out the door, you also don't feel super connected to that person either. So it sounds like, the best practices across a lot of different, careers and industries all kind of apply.
Yeah, and we always say, since my very early days as a marketing manager making these cold calls, it's character building to walk into a physician's office and try to differentiate yourself from the pharmacy reps and the vendors, and really try to position yourself as a resource from the hospital. And we try to avoid the treat train. We don't want to be the ones that are bringing lunch and bringing cookies, and because that's just not what it's about. We want to connect with the people in the office, and
Mhm.
make everyone's lives better, hopefully.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. So, you're 8 years into this, into being a woman business owner. So our, organization at NAWBO has women that are at all levels that have been in business for decades, that have run family businesses for generations, or that are like starting in today's day two. So walk me through, the folks or the women who might be listening that are a little bit younger in their entrepreneurship journey than you are. What would be a couple pieces of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, so my first 3 years, I was by myself, and I was really kinda building the plane as I was flying it. I had a few other friends who were consultants in different industries, and so I picked their brain a little bit to develop my own structure, my own templates. But when I hired my first employee in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, we'd never
Mhm,
actually met face to face, when she started working for me. Um, and just having a colleague to be able to brainstorm with and
mhm,
throw ideas back and forth, and she had ideas that I hadn't thought of, and different shared strengths, that was really helpful for me. And she pushed me to do, to grow the business in some ways that I hadn't pushed myself before. And so I think solopreneurship, it can be hard and it can feel isolating. And so having just the tribe of women in NAWBO to be able to brainstorm with and, share best practice and get ideas from is super helpful. Uh,
mhm,
Early in NAWBO, I facilitated the startup group and the startup incubator, and that was hugely valuable because you learn
mm,
about all of the facets of creating a business plan that some of us may have jumped into business without.
No, what? No
So
way.
walking through, finance and HR and taxes and all the things, that was a really, really valuable experience for
Yeah.
me. And I think those kinds of resources that come out of NAWBO are so helpful, especially when you're getting started.
Yeah.
But even as you're maturing, as you're scaling up to the next phase, that's a whole different, level of challenges that you're going to face.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, I think there's, for whatever reason, there's still that stigma of, asking some of those questions about how to run your business that you feel silly or like it's a stupid question or I should already know this. I'm embarrassed to even, ask. So when you join a program where that's all going to be, not only presented to you, but if you have additional questions, these are people you can trust to ask. I feel like that just helps so many women feel more comfortable and less alone in the fact that none of us have it perfectly figured out. Nobody's doing it, 100%, perfectly across the board. So you did a great job building out that startup program and we really loved having you facilitate that.
I think, it's having just a group of like-minded women. I think we all are juggling lots of different things in our lives in addition to, running our businesses, and having, being able to be vulnerable in that group and, ask questions. And like you said, say, I don't know this. I feel like I should, but can you help me, get
Mhm.
some coaching. I think I was very independent minded in the beginning, and I didn't feel like I needed a coach or I needed somebody to help walk me through it because I had been successful in my, corporate career previously.
Mhm.
But the coaching industry is huge. And I think there's lots of business coach, resources that can really help women, even if they, don't intend to build a team, if they want to stay a solopreneur,
Mhm.
that's their business model. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So you, in your business, in your personal life, you really have prioritized giving back and you serve on so many different boards. You are just rolling off of the NAWBO board, but you do all sorts of events throughout the year and contribute to so many organizations. Is that something that you just always innately, wanted to do as part of your, just personality? Or is that something that you felt like, okay, as a business owner, I need to make sure I'm giving back in some way? Walk me through kind of that piece of it.
I wish I could tell you that it was intentional. It's just that when I'm called, I have a hard time saying no.
Yeah.
I just really, I think it's just innate in me, this, drive to help, to volunteer, to support, to develop. And it's been a blessing, but I am trying to step back from a few of the extracurriculars that I have been a part of, so that I can really focus on the business. But you learn so much from getting out there and doing those kinds of things.
Mhm.
And it can circle back to your business at the end of the day.
Right.
You just have to make sure that you have a good balance of what you're doing, philanthropically, and what you're doing that's revenue generating.
Mhm.
And I think finding what you're passionate about. I mean, NAWBO was kind of combining the two, serving and, business.
Mhm.
The work that I do with the American Cancer Society, that's, driven by my passion to support cancer patients and research and resources. So, I
Yeah.
think that's fulfilling too. That can help bring some joy and, give you a little bit of diversity in what
Yeah.
you're working on. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I feel like too, NAWBO in particular, well, really, I think a lot of boards I've been on and, volunteer opportunities, it's such a good incubator for leadership training. It's like if you can gather people to do stuff without the promise of payment and, for no other reason than they just really believe in the cause, you can do anything, right? So I feel like there's so many opportunities when you give back to learn those really, important lessons about how to lead and how to motivate people. So you do a great job of that as well.
yeah, you can't see all of the boxes in my office, but my desire to give back led to us facilitating about 20 collection sites for donations for the floods in the Hill
Oh,
Country.
wow.
So we're
Yeah.
collecting. We tapped into some of our clients and just other practice
Yeah.
partners, and so we're all going to be collecting donations through the end of the month. But that was one of those things
Mhm.
that it was just, I feel like I need to do something. What can we do? How
Yeah.
can we use the resources that we have, to give back a little bit. It's not a lot, but
Right.
it's been
Yeah.
helpful.
Every little bit for sure. And God bless you for doing that. I feel like it is, it's been a very, very somber, very strange week here in Texas and the Hill Country area. And you and I both live, pretty close to the impacted areas. So we are certainly praying for and thinking about all of the families and people that have been impacted. It's been certainly a really, really horrible thing to see. And it's amazing that you're finding some time to give back.
It's going to be, we'll be rebuilding for a long time. So there
Mhm.
will be a lot of opportunities for people to pitch in. And it's been really heartwarming to see how the Hill Country has stood up for,
Yeah.
our community. So that's been great. But yeah, it definitely hit really close to home for us.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing about Texans, we'll do anything for you. We'll give you the shirt off our back. So you are definitely one of those people that I know I could count on if I needed to call and ask a question or whatever it is. Not medical advice. I don't know that I would give you a call for medical advice, but you could
I
find a
mean,
client for me to help out.
I could probably get you by. I could get you to a diagnosis. It's fine.
You've got Google, you've got WebMD. What more do you need? We could
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. So, Michael, if you are, intriguing somebody listening right now and they want to learn more about you, what would be a good way to do that? How can they find you online?
Yeah. So our website is waechterconsulting.com. We're at Waechter Consulting on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, they can reach out to us that way or any of my team members.
Absolutely. And you can find more information in the description as well about Michael. And if you're just listening in, Waechter is spelled Waechter. So if you can find them online, you will learn lots more about that company and their vision and how they might be able to help you. And if we've intrigued you about NAWBO, if you'd be curious to learn more, you can scan the QR code if you're watching. There is a link to all of our upcoming events. It's summer right now, so we've got a slight, dip in how much we're doing, just because everybody's traveling and busy and doing all the things. But we will absolutely have a really exciting and fun fall and into, our next year of programming for NAWBO as well. And then our website, if you're curious, is NAWBO, NAWBOSA.org. So NAWBOSA.org. Any final thoughts for us, Michael? Anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
I'm really excited for the monthly meeting next week. It's a new speaker, a new time starting at 9 a.m., shifting from our normal lunchtime. So I'm really excited. I think she's going to be super dynamic.
Yes.
I hope to see everybody there. And otherwise, I just thank you for having me on. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael. We really always enjoy speaking with you, and you are just so talented at what you do, whether it's for your own business or for giving back and initiatives that you care about. Really always very inspiring to see you do your thing. So,
Well, thank you.
all right. Thank you very much, Michael. And thank you for tuning in.